I've never been much of a PvP player in EVE Online. That's not to say that I'm a Care Bear by any stretch of the word. I'm quite happy going out into dangerous environments and being hunted. I like exploring wormholes. I like C3 ratting, for crying out loud. I like high-risk gameplay. I've just never been particularly good at PvP because it's always been difficult for me to find PvP and actually, have fair fights and enjoy it. So the updates to EVE Online's faction warfare system could not have arrived at a better time. Oh boy, I am in love with faction warfare now. This is a great way to get into PvP. It is really, really lucrative for ISK, and it is just so much fun. So in this video, I'm going to sit down and teach you everything you need to know to get enlisted into faction warfare and start blowing up other players for fun and profit. Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie, and spoiler alert, I've never really been a PvPer. I've had a lot of people ask on my recent EVE Online videos, will I showcase PvP fits? And the answer is yes, eventually, once I fully get competent at actually flying in player versus player environments. One thing that faction warfare has taught me is that I do genuinely enjoy this playstyle. I think it is an important part of EVE. I don't care about losing ships, and I have good fun blowing up other people's. I just absolutely suck at it, and so faction warfare provides an excellent starting point for me to get out there and try blowing some stuff up. Even if it is more times than not my own ship, at least I'm learning. Faction warfare is a really cool new system. It's been completely overhauled recently for the Shipcaster Shadow War, a really awesome bit of EVE Online lore where the four empires are suddenly beating the drums of war again at each other and tensions are rising. But what makes this so awesomely special is the fact that it is not exclusively combat ships. There is stuff here for literally everyone, and it is a great way to get started learning PvP, and boy, some of the rewards you can get from this are ridiculously lucrative. Like, you can make a lot of ISK doing this. Anyway, if you do enjoy this video, please let me know. Hit like on it, subscribe if you haven't already for more cool EVE Online content, and if you do want to go the extra mile to support content like this, you can head across to my Patreon, pledge to support each month. My PayPal tip jar is linked in the description, and I have a Redbubble merchandise store as well if you want some exclusive swag. Otherwise, folks, let's jump right in. Whilst you can, technically, just undock and fly out to a war zone and start shooting people, if you do that, you will miss out on most of the rewards available to you in factional warfare. Instead, what you need to first do is to enlist with one of the four main empires. Essentially, you can think of enlisting as alerting that empire that any fighting that you do in their war zone is on their behalf, and this means that any objectives you complete in factional warfare, they will award you a certain amount of LP, loyalty points, for their faction, which you can spend in their faction's loyalty point stores to buy really cool items. Now, some of those items you could just use yourself, but you could also sell many of those items on the market, and this is where the real ISK in factional warfare is currently coming from. I'm not going to list out some items that you should look at, I will leave that to you to figure out for yourself, but there are some very lucrative items that you can buy and sell on the market to make some rather extortionate amounts of ISK. Now, it used to be the case that enlisting in faction warfare required you to leave your corporation first. This is no longer the case. Enlistment is now far simpler. All you need to do is go to your neocom, open up the menu, go into activities, and then down to factional warfare. There is no default keybind for this screen, but you can set one in the settings if this is a window you expect to use often. Now, when we get the factional warfare window, it's divided into three main areas. On the left, we get the faction that we're looking at, along with some statistics. So here you can see that the Galente Federation, in war with the Caldari State, is currently getting their butts handed to them. 69 systems occupied by the Caldari State, nice, and 21 occupied by the Galente Federation. In the centre, you can see the Warzone map, which is where you'll find out where you want to go and what you're going to do with that particular faction warfare. And on the right-hand side, we have the System State panel. We'll talk about that more later. Finally, along the top, there are Warzone details and objectives. But what if you don't really want to be flying with the Gallente Federation? Well, at the bottom of this screen is a drop-down menu that will allow you to select any of the other empires instead. So if we go, for example, to the Minmatar Republic, we can see how they're doing in their war with the Amar Empire, we can see what their war zone map looks like, and we can even sign up down here if we want. It should be noted that if you want to enlist with a particular faction, you must be in one of their stations. You don't necessarily need to be in space of that particular faction, you just need to be in a station that is controlled by them. Now, this is an important distinction, because if I go to the Caldari state, you'll see that here in CAT, the system I'm currently in, which is Gallente space, there is a Caldari state station in this system. It's just not the one I'm currently docked at. If I go back to the Gallente Federation screen, you can see because I'm docked at that station, I can just click on Enlist Me, or even enlist my entire corporation if I want. Now I'm just going to click Enlist Me, because I'm doing this solo on my own. We do get this warning here about joining the militia, that you're about to list as an individual to fight for whichever empire you're clicking on. Doing so might put you at war with members of your corporation or alliance. Of course, I'm going Gallente because my corporation is based in Gallente space, and I don't want to lose too much Gallente reputation, and ultimately a lot of people go for Caldari because they don't want to lose reputation with Jita. They want to be able to still dock up at Jita when they want to go shopping there. These are considerations, because obviously if you're fighting in these wars, your standings will increase and decrease accordingly. Therefore, you might decide to go for a war zone that is nothing to do with where you live. The Amar and Minmatar war, for example, because none of the main trade hubs, I mean, you've got Jita in Caldari space, there's no reason to worry about that. If you're based in Gallente space and you still want access to Jita, you can just fight for Amar or Minmatar and do it that way. Of course, if like me you don't give two damns about Jita, we can just sign up for the Gallente Federation anyway. So I'm going to click yes. Now it churns for a second, and now suddenly I'm added to a militia channel. This is anyone else who has signed up for the Gallente Federation gets dumped into this channel. They won't appear here until they actually speak, but you can ask them questions. You can report what is going on in the war with each other, you can enlist aid with each other, and go and look for some really big fights. Now, in response to finding the fights, that's where the map comes in handy. Now, you can move around the map and kind of figure out where you are in relation to all of this, and then you can figure out where you're going and how you're going to get there. So, for example, here, I know that Hadiels and Filet are both pretty close to where I'm currently docked. In fact, I can right-click on this, and I can go set destination, and it'll add it up here, and you can see I'm literally 3 jumps away from this war zone. Now, there are different icons that are being shown here. This weird sort of 3 lines in a triangle is a frontline system. This will be explained in just a moment. If you see this symbol here, this is what's referred to as a command operation system, and the ones behind these are rearguard systems. These have some different things in them that you can do. Now, essentially, it's not just combat. I can go out to any of these systems and start blowing up other pilots on behalf of the Gallente Federation, but I'm not going to get all that much from them. Instead, we want to have a look at some of the objectives, which brings us nicely to this tab up here. Now, in the objectives panel, we can read about what's going on here, about different aspects to factional warfare that aren't just blowing up ships. It should be noted that it's talking about different types of items and all different types of gameplay here as well. This isn't just combat. For example, propaganda broadcast structures are things that can be built and anchored there. They're deployable structures that can be made by capsuleers that will increase your advantage points in the system they're deployed in. They must be defended for a period of time in order to gain those advantage points, and you can buy propaganda broadcast structures from your militia's LP store. There are also listening outposts. These are deployable structures that can decrease your enemy's advantage points in a system they're deployed in. They must be defended for a period of time before advantage points are deducted from the enemy's side, and again, these can be bought from the LP store, or you can buy the stuff you need for them. Now, this allows you to modify advantage in a particular system. Advantage is kind of like a modifier. The higher your advantage, the quicker you will capture and remove capture points from your opponent. If you think of this kind of like a king of the hill, you can warp into various different capture points, and as long as you are the only ships there, as long as they're all from the same side, you will start to capture that particular installment, and once it is captured, you will earn a load of LP points. But, of course, you have to defend it. To stop it being captured, pilots from the other side may jump in and try to to destroy you so that they can remove that capture and capture it on behalf of their chosen empire. That's essentially the absolute basics of faction warfare. Looking at the different types, these will appear in your overview as different points that you can warp to. First of all, we have supply depots. Supply depots supply the defending faction with advantage points. Destroying supply depots will reduce the defender's advantage points in that system. They are usually guarded by players and sometimes NPCs, and those NPCs we'll talk about in a second. You will need to change some of your overview settings in order to see them. Supply caches supply the attacking faction with advantage points. Destroying supply caches will reduce the attacker's advantage point in that system. So it is worth figuring out which are which, because you don't want to be a Galente pilot going into a supply cache or supply depot that is actually benefiting your empire and then destroy it, right? That should be fairly clear and obvious. There are then rendezvous points. These are opportunities to disrupt the defending faction's activities in the system. Destroying rendezvous points will increase the attacker's advantage points in that system. These have some particularly nasty NPCs in. Like, if you've been flying around and blowing people up in a Tech 1 frigate and you warp into one of these, you can be dead in literally seconds. They lock you, they scram you, and boom, you're gone. So do be careful. Again, you'll need to modify your overview to show those NPCs. I'll show you how to do that later on. Then we have operation centers. Operation centers are hacking sites that spawn in rearguard systems of factional warfare space. They're the only way to get your opponent's encoder splices and decoder packages, which you can trade on the LP store for propaganda structures and listening outposts respectively. Now, if we jump back to the map here and have a look at the systems, remember, rear guards are the dark coloured ones behind, and you can fly out into enemy versions of these and then hack into the containers. They are basically data sites. Really, really cool little mechanic here that gives explorers a reason to undock and get involved in factional warfare, and also a pretty good use for things like the probe fleet issue or the Heron Navy issue, because you can have a little bit of armament to help you survive in that. But anyway, back to objectives. The final one are the battlefield complexes, and oh boy, this is where the real meat is. Now, battlefield complexes are combat sites that spawn in front lines of factional warfare space. So again, these only appear in the brightest of these, the ones with this sort of weird symbol on them here. You will find battlefields only in those systems. Now, battlefields themselves, they have 3 capture points. To gain control of a capture point, you must clear the area around it of enemy ships and stay inside the capture radius, 30 kilometers, until the timer runs out. The more capture points your faction controls, the faster your faction will capture the complex. So this is also where advantage comes in. You will get more, if you have higher advantage, these will capture faster, and the more of them you capture, the faster the other ones will capture. So advantage can be really important for helping swing a system quite quickly. From here as well, we can go into statistics and we can see how you yourself are doing. I've only just signed up on this character, and we can see how this is all going and have a look at some of your stats. We can go into progression and see how far you're going along, basically ranking up within that military. You can go into the Warzone details, and this will give you a load of just basic info about what's going on here, rather than having to go through the map and click things one by one. You can quite easily see where your nearest frontline systems are, 4 jumps away to Aboon, for example there. You can see the Galente has 44% advantage. If we have a look at some of these rear guards, you've got no advantage, 1% advantage. You can easily analyse the stats here as to how you want to do this. And it gives you an idea of which system you might want to head out to. For me, because I know this area pretty well, I'm quite happy to say, yes, this is the one I need to head to, so I can just go, set destination on it as I already have, undock, go out there, and start to capture some stuff, start to blow some people up, and claim as many LP points as I can, which I can then use in the LP store. Now, for those of you who don't know where the LP stores are, essentially you need to come into a particular station, dock up at a station, and have a look in this menu up here. And there should be this one here. It looks like a little shield with some sort of laurel wreaths around it, the Loyalty Point Store. If you click on this, this will open the LP store. You can scroll up and down and have a look with different current filters and that. You can see I've spent a load of loyalty points, so I don't have anything. I'm going to go show all. You can see there is a ton of really cool stuff in here. Again, I'll let you explore what this all can be, but lots of implants, blueprints, ship blueprints, like, oh, what's that? You want a Megathron Navy issue blueprint? Well, yep, you can get those here for 500,000 LP, etc, etc. Sometimes you do have to put ISK on it as well, but again, this is all easily explainable just by having a look through and seeing what you fancy adding. Some of it's a lot cheaper, some of it's very, very expensive, but that's kind of the entire point. Then we have Federal Strategic Material, which are skins and things like that as well, if you fancy just dressing your character up or putting on certain skins on your ships. That's where you find those, not just on the market. And that's basically all there is to it. I was considering trying to get some decent footage, jumping around and showcasing some of the kills I've got, but essentially I've discovered I still absolutely suck at PvP. I have had some really cool kills during this, though. I did manage to take a 7 million ISK Kestrel out into HDL and took out a 70 million Hecate, which was good fun. You know, nice cheap tier 1 frigate taking out a Tech 3 destroyer, that has, as an explorer, terrified me because they're very popular in Thera. That felt really good. Like, genuinely, that felt like an amazing moment for me to get my first real kill. Like, not a miner, not an industrialist, an actual combat vessel that I successfully took out in a ship far cheaper than what they were using. Now, of course, some people are just going to say, well, yeah, of course, because the Kestrel's fit for being able to take that kind of stuff out. And ultimately, my rejoicing didn't last that long. A Gamma showed up and then scrammed me. I tried to take the fight because I thought, screw it. Nice cheap ship. If I happen to lose it, I can just go and grab another one. And the Gamma completely and utterly wrecked me. And this is the point of factional warfare. This makes an excellent way to learn about PvP. Grab a load of really cheap ships and just throw them at things. See how you get on, see what you come up against. Try and learn so that you're not just feeding the opponent. Speak to people in militia, join some fleets, team up together, and go have fun. That's the key point here, fun. This faction warfare overhaul to me has been insanely cool because it has some really nice balances to it as well. We should, before you go, talk about the different types of complexes, I guess, as well, in that complexes come in large, medium, small, and scout. Large can accept any ship type, medium can accept anything up to battle cruisers, small accepts anything up to destroyers, and scout only accepts frigates. Then you also get advanced, which allow Tech 2 versions of the frigates and the pirate frigates, and you get the navy versions of those complexes as well that will only allow Tech 1 or navy issue frigates. So for example, a navy scout would be only allowing in things like a Kestrel, a Breacher, a Republic Fleet Firetail would be fine to go in there, as would a Republic Fleet Vigil or whatever, that kind of thing. But you couldn't send in a Thrasher into a Scout. Equally, you couldn't put a Wolf in there either. It may be a frigate, but it doesn't fit within the standard allowances. That would need to be in an advanced complex. This allows you to kind of pick your fights, and it means that if you're not able to fly some of these big expensive ships, or you don't want to, you're not just guaranteed to run up against people who have loads of those and are going to throw them at you. As someone who speaks to a lot of people who used to do the old factional warfare, this was a big problem. For example, worm pilots. No one would ever take a fight against a worm because they just knew that you were overpowered and likely to utterly obliterate them. So why would you go into factional warfare with something you know you're just going to lose with? Well, we now have this beautiful little balancing mechanic that allows you to make a little bit of an informed decision about what you're getting into. Of course, you can also fit scanner probes and combat scan down any of the complexes to see what's in them first. When you're inside, keep your D-scan nice and tight. About 5 AU, I think, is enough to get the gate in there, but not enough that it's going to pick up everyone else nearby. Anyway, folks, good luck with faction warfare. Please let me know how you get on. I am still very much learning, so if you have any pro tips, please drop them into the comment section. I will pin the very best one, and eventually, now that I'm a official EVE Online partner program, I will be doing some giveaways very soon, so please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I'll be doing the first public giveaway directly on the channel. Other ones may be done via Discord or Twitter and things like that. The first one will be exclusively here on my YouTube page. Anyway, folks, thank you for watching, happy sailing, and see you in New Eden!